Right, so welcome back to the Let's Talk Lawns podcast. I'm Ryan of the Novice Gardener YouTube channel, and again, I'm joined by David Hedges-Gower of the Lawn Association, but also Ben Tillett, who arguably probably runs, or should I say maintains, the UK's, if not probably one of the world's best lawns. If you've not been on his Instagram or YouTube, you should check it out, because some of the stuff on there is truly phenomenal compared to what you'll probably see on the likes of my channel or any other kind of lawn content channel out there. So I think, Ben, if we just start with kind of how did you get into lawn care? Where did it all start, the journey for you?
That's quite an introduction, thank you. Well, no, it was basically I actually studied horticulture at college when I left school, so it wasn't actually something I sort of went into gardening more than lawn care. So I'd done my MVQ in horticulture, and then I actually went into landscaping. I was landscaping for 7 years, which I loved. Um, and it wasn't until I moved next door to a golf course, a local golf course. I had a friend who worked for a football club. I always wanted to get in at a local football club, but that wasn't an option at the time. So I actually went into put my CV into a local golf club and got in there, and worked my way up to be the assistant head there for 8 years. So that was sort of my route into grass as such. But yeah, and then like I say, I worked there for 8 years, and then this job where I'm at now came up, and haven't looked back since.
Brilliant. Because I know it's interesting you say you kind of started with that, I guess, with the golf kind of background when it comes to grass. Am I right in thinking as well you've done some work with like kind of football turf as well as the golf stuff?
Yes, yeah. So I did actually go. I went to work for my local football team, which it's something that I've always wanted to do. Something that I've always thought that is the job, my ideal job, through supporting them as well. But I think I went in there with my supporter's head on rather than a normal person's brain. And it just didn't sort of work out. It was a bit too repetitive. My job now is there's so much to it, so much scope to it. But the football side of things was just a bit monotonous, really. It was same thing every single day, pretty much.
Why did you leave the golf industry as such, Ben? Any particular reason or?
That was more, I didn't want to as such. It was more that the club I was at never really had a lot of money put into it. Um, we ran a lot of old machinery, a lot of breakdowns. It was just day in, day out with me in the shed rather than out on the course. Then the golf course was getting put up for sale, and at the time I just started a young family. So I was, there was a lot of talk about what if it was going to be sold for housing, if it was going to be kept as a golf club, and obviously with a young child, I didn't want to sort of take that risk. So I then sort of started looking elsewhere. But like I say, it was something that I didn't actually want to get out. I enjoyed working on the golf course, but yeah, so I was sort of not pushed. My hand was pushed, but you know what I mean. It was sort of
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah.
So then this job came up, and I
Yes.
say this job, I think if people, the Instagram and all these wonderful pictures and everything don't really show quite what it is. And I've obviously had the privilege of coming along. What did when you went for the job interview? And we'll explain a little bit. You can explain a little bit more about the site in a minute. But what did you first think when you walked through those doors or drove through those doors and saw? What did you see? Put it that way. And what the hell did you think when you were going for that job?
See, it's a funny one, that, because I always go back to this with it if anyone ever comes to the site, and everybody is just literally like wow. And that was sort of the impression I had when I went there. You just went in, you're like, oh my God, what is this place? But it's funny because being there now, whatever, I've been there 6 years, I don't find that anymore. I I I I look at it and I don't think it's any different to anywhere else. It's odd. I suppose it's something that you get used to, but the majority of people that go there, and as I was in them first weeks and when I went for the interview, was, oh my God, what this is amazing. It's sort of just massive scale of grass. The owner's mental grass. He just loves his grass. Yeah, so it's a hell of a place.
It's quite funny because when I've seen some of your content online and I look at the lawns that I kind of, I say manage, the ones that I cut at home, I can set the oven on, and by the time it's preheated, I've cut all the lawns, do you know what I mean? But I see the scope of what you're working with and how incredible they look on such a mass scale. It's unlike really much else, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a bit like you start at one end of the site and work your way around all week, and then Monday comes and you start again. It's
Just just
yeah.
out of curiosity, Ben, just to give the anyone listening an idea, Ryan, how big are your lawns that you have front and back?
Quite extensive. So the front is about between 15 and 20 square meters.
Yeah,
Back's about 25. I've got a nice little 12 square meter one at the top, which I love. When I bought the cylinder mower, and the comments, sometimes I go back and laugh because so many people go and post the stamp lawn, and that's too big for that one. I used to laugh about getting a ride on and just doing one spin. I'll just
yeah,
turn. I'll just go once and it'll be done. you know. So yes, it's such a difference, but again, tricky lawns in of
yeah,
themselves
yeah,
with
yeah.
like
They come with their own.
shades and all different things. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So
time.
how big are your entire lawns, Ben? Entire lawns.
Well, you got the internal lawns are 2,500 square meters,
Yeah.
and external is about 75,000 square meters.
Is that including a new bit that you've just
That's
done? Oh,
included a new bit, yeah. So when I originally went there, the outside was 55,000 square meters, and then last year we've then done they've had a new lake built, and then we've renovated what used to be just a meadow up the top of the site. So yeah, it takes it in total to about 75,000 square meters of parklands, which I cut to about 23 millimeters, something like
right. Okay.
that.
Striped and everything, isn't it?
Yes.
Now I had the privilege of being called in by yourself, so I know a lot of the history. I won't say that much, but I know a lot about it. Um, what what got you? Because I think it's fair to say that they've changed over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to blow my trumpet because you're the one that does the work. I what made you call me in for a start? Um, what did the owner suddenly sort of go, well, I'm actually not pleased with this. I want to make it better. What sort of brought that bit on?
Failure. I want to say failure. No, it wasn't so much. It was more sort of me that pushed it. Really, it was just things weren't going right. We struggled with sort of power, a lot of it. And we had, like I say, when I first went there, they'd been turfed. I don't know what the mix was in the turf, probably ryegrass. And in about 2018, they had the house renovated and then they turfed it. But what happened was, as well, what I'm led to believe is they got turfed and then the irrigation had a catastrophic failure and the whole lawn burnt off. So uh, they then reseeded, but something went wrong because when I got there, the on the what I class as the main lawn, so that's about 1,500 square meters. The bottom half towards the house was a total different color to the top half.
Right.
And they put it down to the fact that it wasn't the same seed. I don't know what the seed was. Um, anyway, the owner wasn't happy with them, so we reseeded Did we reseed? No, that was when the whole renovations, they put drainage in, new soil, etc. And then we reseeded with pure fescue. The owner was very much like he wanted his fine grass, he wanted pure fescue, which just didn't work for one reason or another. Then they were reseeded again with a rye fescue. And it was just an ongoing thing of just failures, too much different products going on, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then I then come across you and the Lawn Association, and I thought, no, I'm getting him involved. So I said to the owner, I'm going to drop you a message, and it sort of went from there. And then you came in and changed the whole scope, and look where we are.
What I mean, I mean, like I say, I'm not blowing any trumpet because I think people need to realise that these are still not perfectly constructed lawns, are they?
No, no.
I mean, you'll laugh at this, Ryan, but he's got parklands, and you have parklands, and so rather than lawns, he's got South Park, West Park,
Yeah.
etc., etc. It's like Jesus Christ. So when I went there, it was like, yeah, this is. I suppose. I mean, I go to some beautiful sites, and some maintain similar areas to yours. Perhaps not as big as that. Maybe slightly better in some cases. Who knows? But it was like, well, this guy seems to want, because I think when I went there, it was like, yeah, I want the best of everything. I don't care what it costs. I want the dog's doodah of a lawn, and it was quite a challenge because if you remember, you had a lot of equipment.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
your equipment is you've probably got more equipment than some golf courses.
Yes, yeah. Well, to be fair, our local dealer who comes in, who you well know, um, he says on regular occasions that our setup and machinery is probably better than majority of golf courses that he goes to in our local area.
Yeah,
This is obviously just a domestic property we're talking about, so it's
yeah.
crazy, really. But I mean, since you've come in, we've obviously reviewed the machinery, and I mean, what did I have? I had three fairway mowers and three fairway mowers, about five different cylinder mowers. There was all sorts there, and that was just ridiculous.
But he was also going out buying you mowers because he thought he got a good deal on one, and you didn't need some as well. I remember.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So anyway, let's quickly talk about the lawns themselves. Obviously, when I came in, it was, I would call it a salesman's lawn to a degree. You were obviously trying a lot of things that you have been advised by salesmen, and whatever we want to call those sort of people selling products, I suppose. And they it was sort of quite interesting to see that everything that had been thrown at it still wasn't working. Well, I think anyone, and certainly somebody like myself who goes in to evaluate properties, you kind of go, well, if it doesn't work, why are we still doing it? And that goes, on multiple sites. You weren't the only one privileged to that. But I wanted to make it easier for you, and more manageable. And I suppose I probably sounded like a salesman at the time, didn't I? What a load of crap that is.
Yeah, no, it's like I say, when you sort of well, you know yourself what you should be putting on to a degree, but then you get the professionals into sort of what you think is what you need. But like I say, a lot of it was why am I got down to the thing of why am I actually putting this on? What is this doing for the grass? What is it? I mean, before you came in, there was no talk of soils or anything. It was just chuck this on, this will do, this will make it green, this will do this will do that. So it was, and I mean, in the same sense, when I was at the golf club, it was exactly the same there. It was like sometimes you now look back and think, well, why did we put that on? What is it doing for anything really? It's just, are
Yeah,
we just buying it for the sake of it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that which I think for myself as well, when David, I got in touch with you, kind of stumbled across the Lawn Association when you'd replied with quite we've said in the past, a critical comment. And I usually don't reply to it, and it was one I did get back to. And I think for me, it was like asking that question, like you just said then, Ben, of like, well, why? Why are we doing it? And I think this, especially I think of domestic lawn care and the information that's shared, the practices are just passed from person to person, but no one ever stops and says, what is it actually doing to the plant? Or we put it on and say it's doing this, but is it doing what it's almost sold to do? It's an interesting one.
We get it with a lot of products. When you look at the prime time at the moment. I watched somebody doing a video the other day about leather jackets. He calls himself an expert. I won't mention his name, but throwing tarpaulins down and this, that, and the other. And the other thing that obviously a lot of people do with these crane flies is use nematodes. But they're wasting their money with a lot of it. You know, when I'd like to see somebody who goes, it actually did work, and it worked every year. And you think, well, if it's working every year, then that's perhaps fine, but maybe stop them coming in. Maybe look at a different thing that it's not going to cost you in the pocket. Seaweed's another prime example. You go, where do you see the benefit? Are you believing the benefit and not being accountable to it? If you're not seeing improvement in your soil with seaweed, why do it? Because one thing I will tell you with seaweed products is they have a little bit of liquid iron in them, generally speaking, which gives you an instant green up, you know, the chelated iron. So when you put it down, it goes green, and you go, wow, that's good. Mm-hmm. And you go, is it? Is it really?
Right, just a quick one to thank STIGA, the sponsor of this week's Let's Talk Lawns podcast. They've got a range of different lawn mowers and garden tools to help you keep your lawn looking absolutely boss. So if you want to check out any of their products, then there'll be a link down in the description below. And yeah, nice one. Yeah, it's I think, Ben, going back to the renovation kind of, when you went in and got in touch with David, and am I right in thinking it's creeping bent now, isn't it, which you've got down? What difference have you seen in that, you know, the area you maintain compared to what it was, compared to what it's become, what you've made it?
Well, hang on. Let me just the only reason I'm saying this, because Ben remembers obviously this story. When I was doing my first consultation there, we obviously were talking with Ben and the owner, and we talked about, you know, the types of lawn he might like, and I mentioned a grass species called 007, which is the new creeping bent used on some of the best golf courses in the world. And as soon as he heard 007, Ben, if you remember, he went, that's the one I want. That's what I'm having.
I'm having a James Bond lawn, he said.
Absolutely. So what I mean, it was, to a lot of people, I mean, it's a learning curve, because you think, well, I've heard of creeping bent, you know, got it at Augusta, they've got it at, you know, wonderful golf clubs all around the world. Did it fill you with a bit of trepidation at the beginning as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd never. You hear of it and you hear the stories of the thatch and all that, and I sort of went away and I thought, oh, do we not? It's only at the end of the day, it's only me running it, doing it. It's not. I haven't got a team of people behind me. It's scary. It's scary times when you sort of go into things like that. But I mean, like you said before, the whole lawn is. We done it on a bit of a bodge because it wasn't staying. If you remember, it was we'll do this seed and we'll see how it comes, see if I like it, and then we'll rip up the whole lawn, put new drains in, do that. But obviously, it came. I seeded it, and it was beautiful within 7-8 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the important things, because, you know, when we call it a bodge, and we have called it a bodge, the concept at the beginning was your owner was like, well, I want a new lawn. I want to reconstruct it. After if you remember, we dug down and found the drains had been installed with terram around the outside, so water couldn't get in.
Yeah.
And the soil was pretty awful, and it used to. I wouldn't say it flooded, but it actually sort of the water ran down towards his patio, his amazing, beautiful patio, and flooded it when it rained, didn't it? So we kind of went, yeah, we think we need a proper construction, a USGA sand construction, like a golf green, blah, 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 which he was quite sort of into, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think timings came in, and for some reason they said, well, can't do it right now. I think I don't know if it was a wedding or something, but it was like, yeah, can we do something temporarily? And it came up. And credit to you, because you were working on a new grass species. You took the challenge of killing it off, glyphosating, scarifying the bejesus out of it. We punched a lot of hollow tine holes in there to help get some of the water moving during the winter, didn't we? Say we. There's so much credit I get. But ultimately, it's a big risk. You're suddenly killing off your lawn and going, right, okay, there we are up shit creek without a paddle. If this doesn't work and it looked terrible,
Yeah.
I'm on this.
If you remember, I seeded it, and then the first 2 weeks afterwards, terrible weather. The temperatures dropped, and we had terrible, just grey skies. And I didn't get a lot of germinations within sort of week, 10 days, 2 weeks, and I was messaging you saying this isn't doing this, this isn't doing this. Then we figured out the sort of water, and went from there, and then it just went like anything, and it didn't take long to fill in whatsoever, and I thought, blinking heck, and now it's like a carpet. It's lovely.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the photos that you put up and the videos you put up, like I would say, like a lot of things can be doctored. We see lawns all over the place across the internet that are doctored for various reasons. There's tons of hours, I would think, go into some people's YouTube videos that they won't show. And a lot of people tend to think that's with yours. You kind of, they go, well, I've read about it. I've read creeping bent. So I know that, you've got to do this, you've got to do this and this and this and this, because Google says it. Were you shocked at the level of maintenance? I mean, you do obviously a little bit more than most people. You certainly do a lot more than me. But were you shocked at the amount of, or the lack of effort to get it as good as you can now?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, you sort of read up on people saying, oh, you have to scarify the hell out of it every 30 seconds and things like that, and you sort of sit there and you think, well, no, I don't do that. It's and the amount of people I tell, and they're like, oh no, I wouldn't touch creeping bent because you're doing this, you're top dressing, you're verticutting. All right, well, I'm sitting here looking at it thinking, well, no, it looks lovely to me. It's no. Obviously, like you say, I'm maintaining them to, well, almost golf green standard. So you're always going to do a lot more than your normal back garden lawn. But I don't think there much to keep on top of. Like I say, it's only me looking after 2,500 square meters of it. And I'm not rushed off my feet. I've still got time to do 75,000 square meters of apartments and other bits and bobs. So yeah, it's not a major task. It's easier than people think.
And I think as well, you mentioned it. Google talks about creeping bent on golf greens.
Yeah.
So if you read up on it, it's I wouldn't say Augusta National talking about creeping bent and how to maintain it, but it's golf courses all across the world who are rolling the ball at 2 millimeters of grass. So the way you maintain that is completely different to you. You're not, although you could play croquet on it quite easily, you're not. So that aspect means that you can then suddenly do things that don't pressurize grass so much. Cutting it 2 millimeters, golf courses only do it for 6 days out of a year if they got a golf tournament. Yeah. You're able to give yours more length of grass because you don't need to roll the ball across it. No. Which can produce a bit more thatch, but again, you're not feeding it for the BBC or Sky TV. You're feeding it for a purpose. Have you ever, I think we've talked about this, Ryan, have you ever been tempted to have a go at creeping bent yourself?
What, on my lawns?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what, I have? And I think this was the first year where I thought, do I kill one of the lawns off in the back garden and go with it? Or I had this idea of having like a 3 holes, one at the top, one at the bottom, one at the front. So I have a little flag out at the front,
Yeah.
just to kind of take the mick in a sense. But I think since using Ben Fescue and realising how, obviously for my lawns, I'm just coming home from work and cutting and feeding, but it's realising how simple it is and how I don't really have to do a whole lot to it. That's made me think, well, do you know what, let's try something like that, because like I think what you've said already, Ben, there's a lot of stuff online where you look and you think, well, you've got to scarify loads, you've got to verticut it every week, you've got to do X, Y, and Z, it's going to get disease before it's even germinated or whatever. The mad, stupid things you hear. And I think when you're hands-on with it, you think, oh, it's not as bad as what people assume. There's a lot of kind of fear-mongering around it. So I think
that was the one of the biggest things when I went creeping bent was the amount of people online that said disease, disease, disease. I have had less disease on this lawn than any lawn I've ever laid my hands on of thing and golf club, anything like that. So I'm not sure where this disease thing comes in for bent grass.
It's funny because I think a lot of people who I think say it don't have bent grass. And a lot of the people who, if I watch other content or if people comment on mine, I often would reply in the past and say, oh, do you have a bent grass lawn? As if to say, you know, try it, you know, get it in your lawn, have a go. People were telling me last year about how, oh, you shouldn't have gone with Ben Fescue, there'd be disease. And I thought, well, my lawn's been fine. And I'm the one who's got it. So it's a funny thing. It's wherever that's come from, whether it's probably been in a book somewhere, someone's read it and it's been like Chinese whispers passed through and now everybody's saying it, aren't they? It's a funny thing, but I'd definitely be tempted to go for it, because I look at, like I mentioned to you earlier, David, my small lawn in the back that like died off again almost completely over the winter because of the 5 months of shade. It isn't going to survive, and seeing the difference in just the past 3 months and not really doing a whole lot to it, it looks phenomenal already now. And this is the time of year where a lot of content's online, people are renovating. Loads of people just have a patch of soil now because it's the, you know, I saw something the other day, someone had renovated it late October and they've renovated again last week. I think, well, I don't know what you've been able to do in that time in between. And I think for me, it's just been, I've just cut it and fed it and watched it get better without really doing it. And even talking now, it's kind of renovating itself. And I think that's what people don't realise, really. It's probably one of the perfect grass types for the average homeowner, because you do less than, you know, causing your own problems. One of our neighbours, I'm helping them sort their lawn the next couple of weeks, and it's as thin as anything now, and their little robot's been cutting it, and they say every year they buy a box of grass seeds from the garden centre and chuck it down, and it just all seems to die and it never comes back. I think it's a shame, but I guess, you know, not designed to fail, but it's not what's going to get people results. And I think I'd argue that there's other grass types that are far more difficult, I guess, than bent fescue. And I think you, Ben, saying how you've had like hard air disease and, you know, you're able to manage such a astronomical size of space solo kind of tells you that it does a lot of work, that grass, doesn't it? In a sense, for you too.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I say, I'm sort of cutting 2 to 3 times a week. I mean that I can get that done in the morning. And like I say, you verticutting 4 to 6 times a season. It's not a great deal. It's fairly easy grass to keep, to be fair, unless I'm making it look easy, I don't know.
You know what? Oh no, go on, David, you go first.
Well, the bit I was just going to point out, and most people don't think about this, but you know, they follow the trend, is that Ben's on soil. Normally, lawns that have creeping bent, for example, and highly managed lawns like that are on sand. And if you look at the logic right? Now we'll have creeping bent in small patches all across the country. It exists out there, but we don't have patches of the countryside covered in disease, and that's because we've got the soil bacteria which fights disease on its own. So once, if you look after a piece of grass really well, the bacteria in the soil will have the same sort of, they'll have fighting bacteria in there that will balance it all out and stop your lawn from getting diseases. When you have sand, which a lot of people, will follow a trend, I've got to top dress my lawn with sand. You're putting nothing in, it's inert. Sand's inert, it's got no goodness at all. So when you start going away from increasing bacterial levels and putting sand in there, you decreasing the amount of soil bacteria that can fight disease. So one of the things that we've done with Ben is we brought in a bit like True Grass in a sense, but it's from the same company, company called Terralift, who have got these products which basically sort of feed the bacteria again, slightly different way, and we'll have Terralift on one day to explain a bit more about that. But what we've done with Ben is throughout the warm season, when you can feed the bacteria, we've been adding bacteria levels to increase the disease resistance, or the soil resistance that you can actually increase. So, and yours will be the same. You've got soil as well. So again, if you were top dressing with sand again every year, twice a year, like some of these people do, that's the reason why bent fescue or creeping bent alone would get disease, because if you feed the soils, they tend, a bit like the grasses, these grasses will look after you just like the soils will look after you. So again, it was, it's not something everybody knows about, and it's something that, I think Ben would be skeptic as anybody else, and go, Christ, so you feed the soil to increase the disease resistance, but they told me I've just got to put a fungicide if I get the disease. So if you then start to feed back, you start going, Christ, yeah, we're being sold the sale. Feed water, fungicide. Feed water, fungicide. It's a bit like antibiotics or something for paracetamol for a hangover. You go, yeah, but don't drink, and you don't need the drug then. Do you know what I mean? There's a little element of that. So do you think, I mean, you've obviously done it for a few seasons now, Ben, in that respect, and you I mean, I haven't tried to pry you and go, oh yeah, that's the reason. You've definitely noticed less disease without a doubt, have you, in the last few years?
Yeah, definitely. That's like I say, I was getting diseases left, right, and centre, whether it be um fusarium or all sorts. I was thinking, oh my God, what's this week? But no, since we've been using them products, I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had a couple of outbreaks of, depending on weathers and temperatures and things like that, but nothing major. Has we've had it years before where that's wiped out near enough the whole lawn. You think, oh my God, and then because the owner is then like, what's happened to this lawn? But no, since we've been using these, it's definitely helped. Well, it's not a coincidence. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you're only as good as the work that you do. I mean, like you say, if you keep on using products and stuff and aren't accounting for it and saying, well, it just doesn't work. A bit like ryegrass, you kind of get the same thing with ryegrass to a degree, where you go, it keeps dying off. Well, maybe use a grass that doesn't die off. If you're putting seaweed down and not really seeing anything at all that's accountable, don't use it. Why do you need it for? You could probably just increase the amount of bacteria in the soil by a good aeration, and save yourself £100 a year on seaweed products, which a lot of people still even put down during the winter. What's your, because again, people will look at the pictures and go, Ben, that's just incredible, and and it is. There's no question about it. But what do you find your worst or the biggest challenges on managing lawns? Which I've not seen many better, I must admit. I've seen some that are on a par with it, but but what's your biggest challenge? Is it power? Is it I don't know, improving it every year on top of last year, or what is it?
I think my in my head is making it as good, if not better, than the previous year. I have this thing of, are we going to get to like a year down the line? Oh, is that going to be better than last year? Because I always go back to like the pictures when I first seeded it, and you think, oh, that looks mega, and then you sort of look at, you come through winter, and obviously the weather doesn't pick up till like we're only now getting some decent weather, and I mean it's looked decent over winter, but you sort of get to this time of year and think, oh, it's not looking as good as these pictures, and but then you then look at like back on pictures of last June, July, September, think, oh no, that does look proper. That's but no, I mean, I say one of the biggest problems, as you know, we have is our water is the water's poor and my drainage is poor. So
Yeah,
that's my biggest problem, is you almost, because the soils are poor, I'm almost over watering, and I don't want to because the water's poor.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big, that's my biggest problem I find is water management.
What
Uh,
about what? I'm sure Ryan will be interested in this one because I know he's just done some power picking, and people will be intrigued because there's obviously a strange part of the industry that try and keep power annua out, which on the ryegrass you're wasting your time personally. Um, on a creeping bent, which is designed. The guy that designed it, I knew, met him at the Oxfordshire. He came over once. A guy called Dr. Richard Hurley. He made or bred or whatever you call it, 007 tall leader himself. But it was designed to keep out power. I know that it's virtually impossible. However, bent grass, creeping bent, whatever you want to call it, has a better chance than anything. But it still has its problems. If you don't germinate quickly, power will jump in that early stage. What's your view on the power? I mean, I presume your percentage is very, very low still, and you wouldn't do anything to discourage it either, would you? I assume.
no, I mean when we first seeded that creeping bent, I had a few, and I was doing like Ryan, I was out there picking. But when you go, when you're walking up and down 1,500 square meter lawn, picking picking up bits and think, oh my God, and you're only a quarter way across. But like I say, it was because we had that slow germination to start with. Um, that's something that I did. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some bits of power in there, but nowhere near. If you look on my Instagram page from the before and afters, it's literally, even I think there's a shot of when I killed it off, and you can see the amount of blobs of power in there,
Yeah.
just massive plants. But no, now, like I say, there is bits in there, but noticeable, no. Would I go out and pick it? Not.
Do you think you've got a sort of similar percentage than you had last year and the previous year? Do you think it's increased year on year on year?
I'd say I've got slightly more than last year.
Right.
But again, not too much, because the bent just is too thick, isn't it? It just doesn't create enough space to let
Yeah.
it get in. So, my biggest problem is the peacock that keeps crapping everywhere. Um,
Yeah, that's a problem that we all have,
Yeah,
got to be
it's not a
honest.
problem that I haven't necessarily got. I'm not sure on my. Will be big enough for even just a pen for the peacock. Never mind.
Right. Yeah.
I'm thinking, Ben, about obviously all day you're there, you managing maintaining that lawn. I'm thinking more of when you go home and your own lawns. Do you manage them in a similar-ish way? Have you gone with creep and bent at home, or is it kind of,
Yeah.
is it a fly mow job? Like what are we talking?
I've got my lawn is probably smaller than yours, um, and it's just the dog's toilet. It's, the last thing I've always said. It's funny because when we used to have two dogs, and I seeded. I can't even remember what it was. I bought myself a little web, old school. Was it web or a Qualcast old school rotary mower? And I got it down lovely. I so was into it, but we had one summer, and I think the dog's wee just burnt everything. And I just said to my missus, "No, I'm not doing it." And the amount of times I say to her, "I want a bigger garden. I want a big," she said, "You don't even do ours now, so why? Why do you want a bigger one?" And sometimes I do sort of think like coming home from doing that all day, every day. That's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I guess it'd become almost your entire life, wouldn't it? I think if I'm cooped up in a classroom all day, so for me, I've got to get out, and I need the fresh air to,
Yeah,
to be able to do
that's the
something.
thing. I mean, even this morning, I've had my boss on the phone because the water's gone wrong at work, so I'm sitting here sorting that out on a Saturday morning. So my garden sort of takes a back step.
Fair dues.
It's a full-time job, isn't it? I mean, as you said earlier, it's like the Forth Bridge. By the time, I mean, how long does it take you? I know you had three fairway mowers. Obviously, you had one to verticut, which is mad. You had two then to mow. You had a spare one when the other one used to go off to be sharpened and everything. But how long did it take you to cut the parklands there, 75,000 square meters? Because they're all
Uh,
striped, aren't they? They're all
yeah, all
beautifully
striped.
striped.
It's if I start at um, if I start at 8 in the morning, I'll be finished by about 3. So it's a good day to cut them, and I
And
do that twice a week.
twice a week as well. Now
Yeah,
they were one of these again overseeded with ryegrass for many years, weren't they? Where
yeah.
these salesmen, surprised they didn't take you on holiday, to be honest, but they were selling you the ryegrass dream, and that was difficult to manage. Apart from the fact that it was previously 55,000 square meters. You also had an expectation in the winter to present it as well. And it became muddy and not as good. And the grass still used to be fed and grow like the clappers. We've suggested obviously going away from that and haven't needed to seed and saved your boss man a fortune in grass seed every year. How do you manage them differently at the moment? Is there anything in particular that you do differently?
No, I mean they're as you know they're on the list of jobs to rip up and start again, which would be nice because, like I say, they are a nightmare to what is expected. I mean, don't get me wrong, they look fine for a for a front lawn.
Yeah,
Um, but you get on top of them and they're full of all different grasses. There is some bents in there, funny enough.
mm,
There's some fescue in there, a lot of ryegrass, a lot of weedy, horrible grass, a lot of poa.
mm,
Um, so yeah, and again, drainage wise, they just in the winter you can't get on them. You can't really take machinery on them. If you do, you're just making a mess. You're better off staying off them.
yeah,
But like you say, it's all about, do you do too much and then start wrecking it, or do you sort of say to yourself, "No, I'm going to keep off them," and
yeah.
then you get the thing of why are these looking as they do. So
Yeah,
it's a difficult one. But
it's a difficult because he's got his expectations are, probably more so a few years ago. They were incredibly high. I mean, he technically wanted the best lawns, I would say, in Europe. Without a doubt, we'd have probably said the world if I could, wouldn't he?
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that's a difficult expectation because it's not just like a golf tournament. You only have to have a golf course nice for 6 days. it can be shit after that. Nobody cares. The cameras aren't there. But with yours, it's an owner who has an expectation 365 days, including Christmas Day when you're not there. He still wants to be able to look out and go, why is it not stripy as I want it?
Yeah.
So it's a completely different expectation, but it is someone's garden. It's like, Jesus, this is crazy. But he obviously likes grass, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is grass mad. I think what it was when he first so he says to me anyway, when he first moved there, they reseeded all of that parkland with a bent fescue, funnily enough. Um and then when he had all the renovations done, the whole of that parklands was just bulldozed and soil brought in and just totally ripped up. And then it was reseeded with I don't even know what it was. It was a Barenbrug something or other. Um, and he just hated it from the outset. And he always goes back to when I used to come in here, I used to drive in there, my headlights used to make that look like a carpet, and I want that again. Which fair play to him. He sort of spends the money, so why not? But yeah, like I say, it's a difficult one because expectations are he wants it how it used to be. So I at the minute have to make it look as best I can with what I've got. So
So you still have challenges, just like Ryan, just like many people. You still got challenges every day. But do you feel that you've changed your thought process over the years now? Do you think that it makes you think differently about what you're doing and how you do it and why sometimes you do it, or does it not?
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I say, since you came on board and offered your advice, and it's just changed it a lot because, like I say,
I wasn't offered. He did pay.
yeah. um, but yeah, no, it's I obviously would be more like, oh, I need to get this on, I need to throw this product on, this will make that better, and no, so it's very much these days like, no, I don't need to do that as such. I just need to do it this way, or so yeah, like I say, it's a difficult one because it's on such a large scale. So, when you've got them internal lawns, which are a bit more eye for detail, when you've got stuff going on with them, you sort of your parklands has to take a bit of a back step. But then the next week you're like, oh well, that's looking crap over there. So it's difficult being on a large scale to keep that standard up.
What did when you did the bodge and it came up so good? What did your boss man? What was his sort of first, thoughts and views?
Well, put it this way, his screensaver on his phone is still that picture, that original picture.
Is it
So,
really?
so that shows how much he loves that lawn.
Wow.
So,
Well,
yeah, I did notice that the other day when I was stood next to him. Hang on, his screensaver on his phone is
well,
his back lawn. So,
that's something to be proud of,
yes,
man.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
you created that at the end of the day, and that's pretty spectacular.
yeah.
To,
But
to
like I
be
say,
on,
like we said before, it was very much like we'll do this and then we'll rip it up and start again once we know that I like that seed. But it came up so well, and we were expecting him to say, "Yep, here we go." But it was
yeah,
more of a, "Yeah, that's brilliant, thank guys." There's and we're still with it. So it's
yeah.
like I say, I still have the challenges of it sits wet in the winter, like you said before. It rolls to it's like a billiards table. The water when we have a heavy downpour, it literally just sheets off there. There's drainage in there that's like I say wrapped into ram and water can't get through and yeah, it's just yeah, it is a bodge, but I'm winning at the bodge.
What what do you take each year? What do you try and because obviously it's still a lawn, it's still somebody spending a lot of money on a lawn.
Yeah.
But what do you particularly try and improve year on year? Is there anything in particular or not?
Um, I think with me, it's more. I mean, I've been doing this a lot of years now, but I'm still knowing when and why you're putting the feeds on. And in the past, what I've struggled with, I've put feeds on, and then I'd wait too long, and then it would start going not wrong, but it would go off color. It's all like you've taught me to write, keep diaries of when and weathers and why I'm, or not why I'm putting on, but like timing wise. Um, so it's them sort of things what I try and improve on, so that, like you say, 365 days a year, it looks good. Because in the past I've done it where, like you say, I can put a feed on and then wait 2 weeks too long before I put the next feed on, and then you're playing catch up all the time. So they're the sort of things I'm still trying to improve myself.
It's a bit like Ryan then, and Ryan will back this up. Really, is so sometimes less is more, almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's definitely something I found, is that I remember when I changed my lawns to be Ben Fescue, there's a moment where they were looking that good. I thought, I don't know what content to make for the channel, in a sense, and I thought I'm gonna have to kind of redirect the avenue that I go down. And I found that when it was ryegrass, I always fought it. I was always putting feed down, and it looked great for the week, and then it looked poor the next week, and I wouldn't know what to do. And I'd have every product and every tool, and that garage is full of. It's probably not far off what you've got, Ben, in terms of equipment wise. But yeah, you're almost trying to figure out what's going right and going wrong. Whereas what I've found these last couple of years is that really it's just basic stuff. It doesn't have to be that complicated almost to have it looking as what most people would class as something boss, in a sense. Yeah.
If you want to make some content, you can paint that fence at the back there.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, I might have to get myself like a harness or something in case I fall and die. It's quite high. But yeah, I think we might wrap up the episode there then for the Let's Talk Lawns podcast. We'll definitely have more content coming out over the next few weeks. Ben's certainly going to be on with more stuff as well. Like we said at the start, check out his socials. He's got stuff on Instagram. He's got stuff on YouTube as well. So check out all of that. The links will be down in the description below. Give the podcast a like if you have enjoyed it. Share it on your socials too. Get the word out. I want this podcast to spread as much as possible, because there are so many myths and misconceptions out there. And really, like we've said in this podcast, to get lawn care right, it isn't that hard. So subscribe if you haven't already. Finally, thanks for watching.